Hey YouTube, this is Magician34, and I've got something really special for you today. This is a deck called Wat Burn. I've just kind of been playing around with it, and I've always wanted to do a burn and control deck that uses the fact that monsters can be repeat sources of damage, but isn't really like just an aggressive deck using like Goblin Attack Forces or something. And I think I found it in the Wat monsters. I think part of what makes this deck so awesome is this card right here, Wat Cobra. He's got 1,000 attack and he attacks directly. And whenever he hits your opponent with a direct attack, you get to search yourself for any Wat monster from your deck and add it to your hand. It's a great advantage card. And as you'll see, we kind of play around it. But that's 1,000 damage per turn with this guy, and he's easy to defend with what we've got. One of the good targets for him is Wat Giraffe, a 1,200 point direct attacker. In other words, he always attacks directly. And when he does, he sort of stuns your opponent, and they can't really activate any effects or summon anything until the end of the turn that he does that. So he allows you to avoid those set MSTs. You can go ahead and set your cards. They can't MST it in your end phase, and by the time they can MST it, you can chain it, which is really nice. Another cool Wat monster we'll be taking advantage of is Wat Lemur. When your opponent destroys him in any way, they miss their next turn's battle phase. So he's kind of like a built-in Wabakun. Oftentimes, he gets destroyed, soaks up a lot of their attacks and damage for that turn. Maybe you could set like a cylinder or something with him. So that turn's battle phase is kind of wasted, and then their next turn, they're not even going to get one. So in a lot of ways, he helps you cover like 2 turns. And we do have one copy of Wat Fox, mainly because we can search him with the Cobra. And this guy is just our 2-star tuner, but it doesn't hurt that he stuns your opponent whenever he gets destroyed by an opponent's card effect. So, pretty nice. Well, technically it's by battle too, but that's a lot less useful. We're also running Marshmallow, just because he's a great set. They may think it's Lemur or something, go ahead and try to kill it, and they'll take 1,000 and realize you've actually got a sturdy wall. It's the burn on him that makes him useful. We're running 3 copies of Swift Scarecrow because he's a lot harder to stop than Battle Fader is, basically. And stuff like Herald will stop Fader too, so really it's just 100% better for the most part. A lot lower risk. And we're also running 2 copies of Lava Golem. This is great against, say, Rabbit. And remember, the tributes for this guy are part of his cost, so there's literally no way to stop him getting rid of those 2 monsters, and he can kill anything. Makes him extremely potent. That and he can burn them, and if they try to negate him or destroy him like Bottomless, in a lot of ways that's their loss. And that's our whole monster lineup, just 15, and a lot of them are like Scarecrow, they're not really acting as monsters. In our spells, we have 3 copies of Pot of Duality because we rarely special summon. An excellent way to get consistency out of a control-based deck. We have 3 copies of One Day of Peace. If you've been watching my videos recently, you may realize that I'm quite a fan of this card, but especially in control and draw combo-y kind of decks like this, it's an excellent card. It blocks their attack and draws you a card all at the same time. Very useful. And of course, you can second main phase it if you want. And we have 3 copies of Messenger of Peace. He reaches more things than Gravity Bind will, which is a big bonus. The maintenance cost is pretty much negligible. It's only 100 life points per turn. And the really good news is your Wats can attack underneath Messenger whilst it acts to protect them. Very useful. We also have Level Limit Area B. It's mainly, the main reason this made it is even though Ixie's monsters can get underneath it, it's the main reason that if they summon a Synchro monster to get rid of it somehow, that monster is going to automatically get changed to defense mode, even if they priority their effect, to get rid of the level limit. So you still have protection that turn, and that goes for things like Hyperion as well, which will be shifted. So in a lot of ways, this offers you extended protection even after it's destroyed. We're running 3 copies of Wave Motion Cannon because it's one of the best burn cards there is, period. Not really any other reason to say it. I mean, for speed-based burn like Chain Burn, not so much, but for a control-based burn, yes. We do run Dark Hole, just because it's good field clearance. Play it, and then you summon your Water or whatever. And just because it can attack directly with its ability, doesn't mean you have any problem with attacking directly when there are no monsters. I mean, it's the same thing. And we do run Monster Reborn. This is to get your Wat Fox to make Wat Chimera, and it's also a great way to recycle Lemur and whatnot, and you can even access things like Marshmallow or even steal things from your opponent's graveyard to create interesting synchros. So it has enough utility in this deck that we can run it. And that's your 15 spells. We're also running 1 copy of Ceasefire, because it's another one of the best burn cards ever. 2 copies of Magic Cylinder. Very potent burn, a lot of damage off that card. Mirror Force, 3 copies of Threatening Roar, very good chainable card that you can set. We're only running 1 copy of Waboku, but we kind of need a 4th Threatening of sorts, so 1 copy of Waboku. 1 Solemn Judgment to obviously protect yourself from, say, Heavy Storm and similar upsets. And also 1 copy of Starlight Road to protect you from similar things. Usually you can let Dark Holes through, but if you really want the Stardust Dragon, that's an okay way to go too. And a lot of people may try to side in Decrease for you, but since this deck only runs 10 traps, it's actually in many ways a mistake, because you're not really that hurt by it. Your spells and your monsters will more than compensate you. The extra deck, I'll go ahead and be honest with you, a lot of the cards in the extra deck you really don't need. Very few of them will you ever actually actively be targeting. They're sort of contingency cards, like if I get this and the monster reborn at the same time or something like that. But just in case, we do have Decisive Armor, because you can make them with 2 4-stars in your Fox. So you can theoretically make Decisive Armor. Trishula, 2 copies of Stardust Dragon, because you can bring your Fox back with a 4-star monster and then Monster Reborn it, and that's your 8-star, and also one of them for Starlight Road. Scrap Dragon, because you can always turn Super Offensive or something like that, so cards like that are useful. 1 copy of Black Rose, better be Monster Reborning to make that happen. Very hard to do it otherwise. We're running 2 copies of Walk Chimera, because he still gets under Messenger, and he's kind of like an Urbellum, but he works no matter how many cards are in your opponent's hand. As long as they have something for him to spin back to the top of their deck, he can create really nasty locks, especially with all this back row control. He's not really the object of your deck to summon him, but obviously if you do get him out, he's very powerful. We are running 1 copy of Brynak also, your other 6-star target. We have Magical Android because you do have a 3-star, and gaining life points could be very powerful for you, especially if you're going close to time. Catastrophe is your other 5-star target, very defensive. We have Armor Arm because you can make him, that's Lemur and Fox, and he's big enough that you can use him to stall behind Messenger of Peace if you need to. We have Utopia, another good control-y card that can block attacks and buy you time. You have to use Monster Reborn to make a rank 3, but Zenmain is the one you'd want to be making. Leviair doesn't really do a whole lot for you in this deck. So, Zenmain, and you could theoretically make Gachi Gachi, and he's also great for hiding when you've got Messenger of Peace or similar cards. He can buy you a lot of time. So anyway, that's the deck, Wat Burn, and I strongly suggest you try it. It's a lot of fun, and it's very potent. Like all burn and control decks, it cancels out the usefulness of a lot of cards in your opponent's deck. But this one can put the pressure on in some unique ways. So anyway, until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more cool videos.